An accidental success. It is a hot August evening in 1853. George Crumb is working at a restaurant in Saratoga, New York. He is the chef, and he is very tired. He looks at the clock on the wall. It is 8 o'clock. 1 more hour, George thinks. Then I can go home. The doors of the kitchen open, and a waiter walks in. He is carrying a plate of potatoes. The customer doesn't like the fried potatoes, the waiter says. He wants them thin and crisp. George makes some thin, crisp potatoes, and he gives them to the waiter. A few minutes later, the waiter returns with the potatoes. The customer doesn't like them, the waiter says. He wants them thinner and crispier. George is angry. He cuts 2 potatoes into paper-thin slices. He fries them in hot oil until they are brown. He puts salt on them. Then he puts more salt on them. "Here," he says to the waiter. "Extra thin, extra crisp potatoes. Extra salty, too." After the waiter leaves, George thinks about the potatoes and smiles. They are too salty and too brown. They are also too thin. It is impossible to eat them with a fork. A few minutes later, the waiter walks back into the kitchen with an empty plate. He loves them, and he wants more, the waiter says. Everybody at his table loves them too. George begins to make thin, crisp, salty potatoes at the restaurant every evening. They are a big success. A lot of customers come to the restaurant. 5 years later, George opens his own restaurant and makes the potatoes there. Chefs at other restaurants begin to make the potatoes too. Later, the potatoes are made in factories, and they become popular all over the United States. Today, George's potatoes are popular all over the world. But we don't call them George's potatoes. We call them potato chips.